Hello everyone, Cutting Tool Designer here. Welcome to part 15 of restoration of the South Bend Heavy Tin Lathe. Today we're going to show you some stuff that we picked up. We got some bearings, we got the Wicks in, along with some oil that's supposed to be for the South Bend. So we'll review those items, then just do a real quick where we're at kind of thing, and I'll give you the information for the bearings that we got and the wicks and the oil and so forth. So hang on one second, I'll be right back. Okay, here's the housing for the quick change gearbox. Pretty much getting to the point where we're ready to go. The two bearings that I picked up, and I got these from VBX offline. Both of them are to replace this one bearing here, which is a angular bearing that goes into this area right here, and that's where the lead screw goes to. So that one we picked up. It's actually a notchy bearing, 72038. And let's see, I already opened this bag up, but I didn't take it out of the plastic yet. So let's see what we got here. And it should be, look like it was pretty much the same thing. Oh yeah, spins real nice. Okay, so of course the notchies are a Japanese brand. Made in Japan, spins freely, and this is the existing one. I don't know if you can hear that. Let me get you over to better sound. But you can hear that. It's running okay, but got some noise. Nice little speed on that one. So basically the same. Should mount up the same. The races are a little bit different, but should be no problem. Mounting that in there, and same size. And the other one was the it's a deep groove radial bearing. It goes in here to support the Christmas tree shaft that goes through for the Christmas tree gears, but it hardly spins, and it's kind of binding. So what we picked up for that one was a fairly equivalent, and these were new departure bearings, by the way. It's a notchy also, 6203 ZZE. Now these are available same size with rubber shields or steel shields, and I chose to stay with the steel shields. I figured, even though they're not as tight as rubber seals, but with the steel ones, at least if I get any chips up in there and they run along that bearing at all, metal chips would actually rip the rubber ones up pretty quick. This way at least all the big particles will be left out. That one's pre-greased, so it doesn't run like a roller bearing, but an open bearing that's been oiled. So it's pre-greased, and it'll go in here. Now I got these again at VBX. I'll leave a link in the description below to the web pages for them. Got them both. Both of them come to under $20. It was like $18 for the two of them. So all in all, fairly inexpensive, and I won't have to worry about these bearings. Okay, be back in just a second, and then we'll talk about the wicks. Okay. Well, I got these off of eBay, and I will leave a link to the eBay seller. I'll actually leave a link to the page for the South Bend Heavy Tin. And he sells the wicks in a number of different ways. Sometimes just the wicks, certain parts, or complete kits, or a combination of the required felts and a gasket for the sump for the apron, along with this book, Guide to Renovating the South Bend Lathe by Elion Industrial Services. And I figured, what the heck, give me another reference. It shows a lot of pictures in here and how to disassemble it, all the way through how to reassemble it. So there's a lot of good information in here. Covers 2 different types of gearboxes, a couple different kinds of spindle configurations. So it covers a lot. Tells you exactly where to put the wicks and everything and how much to use. So it covers the 10L, the heavy 10, 13, 14 and a half, and the South Bend 16. So you get the gasket for the apron, a nice little pouch that comes in. This was actually separate in the box. These are the wicks for going into the spindle housing. See if I can get to where the spindle is. I think it's further back. But if you look at the bottom of the bearings, see if I can find the picture here real quick. Right in here. Okay, so down the bottom of the bearings where the shaft or the bushing sits and the shaft sits, there are these little felt wicks. They're round and they have a spring on them, and they are compressed. And then the oil galley from the front feeds down into a reservoir where this wicks the oil up into the spindle. So these you pretty much always want to replace if you're rebuilding it. And again, then I got the wicks for the tailstock, which I've already done the tailstock other than put the wicks on, and then the way cover wicks and all the different thicknesses. There's a couple of round ones in here. So there's complete instructions on how to use them. So you can check this eBay seller out. Come recommended by Greg Halligan, Halligan 142, and I believe Brad Jacobs also uses this person. Very thorough. I think it's well worth the money. Saves you a lot of time. I mean, you can buy the wick material, the felt, and cut your own, but this saves a lot of time. Everything's pretty much cut to the right sizes. There will be some trimming involved, but you don't have to worry about cutting them to a specific width or anything like that. So, well worth the money, I think. Hang on a second, we'll be back. We'll talk about the oil that I picked up. Alright, so I also picked this off of eBay. This particular seller, again, I'll link him in the description, offers these tubes. Looks like I got a little bit of leakage in here somewhere. So this would be the whey oil. He even gives you the name of the oil, which is very nice for refills in the future. If you wanted to buy more in volume, you can. Mobile Velocite number 10, again from Blue Chip Machine Shop is the name of the seller. Mobile DTE number 24, this would be type B, that's type A, and then mobile DTE heavy / medium for the type C oil. And granted, you can buy this stuff probably separate. You'll probably have to order it from someplace. Not going to go to your auto parts store or any place like that locally and get these various oils. But the convenient thing is, at least this way, if you're just starting up, which is what I'm going to be doing with this lathe once we get it all back together. These are all the recommended oils for the various parts of the machine. They come in a small tube. And he also includes all the caps so that you can then cut the end, store them, and then easily lubricate the machine. So for that, you've got, I don't know if these are each a quart, probably not a quart, maybe a little less than a quart. I didn't actually look to see what the volume was. But very convenient. You always have them for easily maintaining the machine, and all of this was basically $30. So for starting out, I think it's well worth the money. As I use the oils, I'll probably see about buying it a little bit more in bulk, and then continue to keep these tubes and refill them for the convenience. Okay, so that takes care of that. We'll do a quick review of some of the things that we've been up to, and be back in just a second. Okay, here's some parts for the apron. This is the worm gear. Now, one of the things I did, so I kept them on the right track, I put a little groove in this piece, put a little groove in this one here, and then also put a little groove on the worm gear down in here. There's no contact with anything there. That allows me to know that these were the parts for the left hand side. Now, if I take this apart, same problem that most people have. You might see it, there's a groove in here. You can see where it's wore on this side. The chamfer's not as big. So what that does is it changes the end play. So once I get the apron all cleaned up, painted and ready to go, before we assemble it, what I'm going to do is put the worm gear assembly in, line up the pinholes for the screws, and take some feeler gauges and find out how much slop we have. If I can get that to start on there. Cross thread it. And this side also has a little bit of wear. Not much compared to the other side. All in all, this is not that big of a ridge. I've seen them a lot worse. You can check with Greg Halligan on his rebuild of a 16. He actually faced it all off and brazed on a piece of brass to bring that thickness back to where it needed to be. I don't know what that's going to be at this point, so I won't know that until I'm ready to reassemble. And then we'll take a measurement. Not sure how I'll handle that. Two things that I have in mind. One would be to do similar to Greg and then machine that. We'll probably go ahead and machine them to get rid of those ridges. The other would be to machine that back a little bit, and then put a shim in there, which I don't know if I want to put a shim in that position. If I put a shim, I'll probably put the shim on this side that goes up against the housing, since this does not rotate. This is a pin that goes in here and it locks into a groove in the housing. So that would shim it out to take up the slack after we reface both of these pieces. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do. And that way I can get the pin alignment correct. And we'll shim both sides so that they get centered. I think that's what I'm going to do. Then the clutch assembly, got it all tore apart, cleaned up. This is the oil slinging ring that goes in the back. Thrust bearing up here. Here's all there's the spring in there for the clutch assembly. Here's all the clutch plates here, and then this is a thrust bearing here. This is the block that goes in the end of the, there's a key underneath this, that goes under the, into the main hole in the housing of the apron, and then there's a set screw that locks that in place. And then of course this is the washer that cams up against, and then this of course is the main bracket for camming. Now this piece I haven't finished cleaning up. I got it fairly degreased. There is a, and you can't see it probably, but there is a snap ring down in here, and it's pretty tight in there. So I'm probably going to have to get, and it only looks like it has about a 1/16 gap between them, and it's recessed into the housing down here. So I'll probably have to get a pick to get in there to kind of pry up on the edges to try and get that started, and then I'll see if I can get a hold of a pair of inside snap ring pliers to take this shaft out. I probably don't need to. It seems fine. There's really not a lot of play in there, but I really would like to get this 100% cleaned up so that there's no past residues on there. And then speaking of the handle for it, then just got done stripping all the paint off of that, cleaning it up, derusting it, polished up the shaft a little bit, and polished the ball. So it's pretty much ready to put some paint on. And of course that slides over here, and then when you pull up on it, it'll lock it. It's actually supposed to go on that side because then you can get a Allen wrench in there for that set screw to tighten up on. So that's how the locking mechanism works. So making some headway, getting the parts ready to go. I'm in the process of stripping the paint off the apron right now so I can get in there and clean things up, and I still couldn't get that cam lever out. It's to put it in the position that they tell you to put it in to come out. It looks like it'll come out, but the one side, I don't know how the heck they got it in there, because it comes up and it hits the housing for this bearing support right here. I don't know. I'll probably have to. I really want to get it out so I can get everything cleaned up properly. So I'll probably have to get the old Dremel grinder out and grind a little bit of material away underneath so I can get that to actually come out. So we'll deal with that when we get to it, and probably show you when we do. So hang on a second, I'll be right back. Okay everyone, well I think we'll try and keep this one short again too. Sorry for not being further along in the project like everyone else out there. For the most part, we all have regular jobs that we got to go to. A lot of other things go on in life, and I really only get some time on the weekends, and sometimes I don't even get that. But I'm trying to get things done a little at a time, keep on moving, show you where we're at, let you know of anything I run into, and we'll keep on going. So if you want to keep following along, please subscribe. That way you get a notification. And I think I heard somebody else, one of the other YouTubers, say when you subscribe you have to click on something else to get the notification. I don't know if that means you get it in the email, or normally what I see is for all the people that I've subscribed to, once you've subscribed, usually when they post something new, it comes up on your start page when you go to YouTube, and you also have a list on the side of all the subscribers that you have or that you've subscribed to, and it lets you typically know, is there one or two videos you haven't seen yet that they've posted. So if you want to follow along, please do. And also if you're liking any of this at all, really appreciate a thumbs up. But anyways, we'll just keep pegging away at it, and a little at a time. Slowly but surely, we'll get there. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment. Been trying to get back to people as they've asked questions, so please feel free. It may take me sometimes a day or two to get back to you, but I am very hard trying to make sure that I get back to people. I've got some other parts that are already cleaned and painted. We're in the process of being painted, so there's some stuff that you haven't seen yet that I've gotten a little further along. Now that we have the wicks in the bearings, I'm hoping next episode we will reassemble the gearbox. Okay, so let's keep our fingers crossed that that goes well. Just a couple minor little things that I want to do to it yet. I do have to get some more Gitz oilers. I need to have one to replace here. I need two for the gearbox. They're 1/4-inch press-in ones. And I also want to get one for the apron where the main drive handle is at. There's just a wick that feeds back through to oil that. And what a lot of people do, and what they recommend in this book on how to restore the south bend, they recommend drilling a 1/4-inch hole in the handle just above the wick key that goes inside there. And that way you can just put a drop of oil in there and it oils the wick to always oil that shaft a lot more efficiently. So those are things that we're going to look at getting done. Hopefully I can get those on order. Maybe, if possible, I'll have them for next weekend, and we can look at getting that gearbox back together. Alrighty, everyone. Until next time, this is end of episode 15. Please stay tuned for part 16. Until then, everybody out there, take care. Have a good day. So long, everyone.